allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Pursuant to the provisions of Section 2.68.030 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws, notice is hereby given that if you're not satisfied with the decision made by the Metropolitan Transportation Licensing Commission, you may appeal the decision by petitioning for a writ of certiorari with the Davidson County Chancery or Circuit Court. Your appeal must be filed within 60 days of the date of the entry of the Metropolitan Transportation Licensing Commission's decision. We advise that you seek your own independent legal advice to ensure your appeal is filed in a timely manner and that all procedural requirements have been met. Mr. Fields circulated to the commissioners our draft minutes from our prior meeting. Has the commission had an opportunity to review?
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. So as I mentioned before, this is a specially called meeting to address entertainment transportation pursuant to MCL Section 6.77030 and the MTLC Entertainment Transportation Rule 801. We're holding a specially called meeting today for the consideration of new applications for public convenience and necessity for the purposes of operating an entertainment transportation company, and also requests for additional permits by existing certificate holders. Mr. Fields?
Yes, sir. As you will recall, we went through the last meeting, we took action on the existing permits. The current these applications represent either new companies or existing companies that have asked for enhancements to their certificate, in other words, additional vehicles. So this will be their time to speak. It's not a public hearing, so you won't be hearing from the public. You'll just be hearing from the company representatives.
All right. We are going to hear from each of the applicants today. We're going to limit the time to speak to 2 minutes like we did our prior meeting. So I will call in reverse alphabetical order the new certificate applicants, and then we'll do the existing certificate holder applicants as well. Nashville Party Truck. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Rachel Lawson. I'm an attorney with Dickinson Wright here on behalf of the Nashville Party Truck. And to my right is Mr. Visbean. He is the owner of the Nashville Party Truck. Mr. Visbean is a new applicant for 4 ETV permits, but he is not a new operator. In April of 2019 to December of 2020, he co-owned the Nashville Party Barge, which is a current permittee. From January 2021 to June 29th, 2022, he operated the Nashville Party Truck. And when, after not receiving permits of the first round, he immediately ceased operations. He did not receive his permits on the 29th because he was not present due to his military orders, which were provided to the commission prior to that date. The commission recognized a representative who was not a representative of the Nashville Party Truck to speak on behalf of his applications. I've included with our materials a transcript from the June 29th, 2022 hearing for his particular applications. The unauthorized individual made false statements concerning the safety of the vehicles. On page 445 of the transcript, the commission moved to deny based on those false statements. As of today, all of his vehicles are inspected, compliant with all MTLC rules, and fully insured. In addition, the applicant will unload and unload all customers from private property, which, as you know, we heard at length from your last meeting, is a big area of citation. I will let Mr. Visbean conclude our comments.
Hey, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Adam Visbean, owner of the Nashville Party Truck.
As mentioned in the last meeting, for the last 13 years I spent in the active duty Army. And as an officer, my job always is to plan operations. When you plan operations, my number one priority is risk. And I think that's kind of what we look at today is not only do we need to consider the risk and who's on the road, but I bring that up just to share with you that, I am, again, not a new applicant for this business, and I operated in this business for years. And so with that being said, when I operated the National Party Barge for almost 2 years, there was 0 infractions or incidents. And I think that as we look at this industry, there is a demand, but I fully understand and support the need for control. But I think that I'm one of the best applicants in this committee here to choose to have permits. Thank you.
Where will you load and unload?
I have a building about 1.5 miles from Broadway on Trimble Street, sir.
It's right near Wedgwood, Houston.
Thank you.
I would like to note that I think, not to dive into some of these details, but some of these permits here I think are misleading as they're not the National Party truck. They're for a separate operation in a business that conducts shuttle operations.
Thank you. Any questions?
Those, you said it's a separate business, but it's affiliated with you or no?
So it's misleading slightly because when the application was put in initially, the name of the National Party truck was on this bus, but the bus is operated under a different business. And so the person who wrote the tickets fully did the right thing and saw the name on the truck, on the bus. I've removed that simply because we did that when we did the application for all the pictures. The name had to be there and all that stuff. But that bus is a separate business, not affiliated with the National Party truck.
Are you the owner of that business?
I am.
And what is the name of that business?
Music City Gents.
It's operating currently as an entertainment transportation.
It is not.
There's not been any alcohol, dancing, standing on that bus as it rolls through Davidson County.
These tickets are, it's a shuttle bus. It was perceived as an ETV operating, but it is a shuttle bus.
Where does it show?
Just A to B points in Nashville.
Doing what? I mean, I don't
Just
understand.
moving people. Moving people.
Who?
Customers for that business.
So like groups, you mean,
Yes.
like a group tour?
No, not a tour, just moving customers, say, from Airbnb to location B.
So it looks like you have 2 loading violations. One, you paid a fine already.
Yes, I spoke with the gentleman, and for the rest of them too, I'll speak with him offline and just comply with, what's required here, but that is correct.
The violations that state operating without driver's permit, is that to drive a shuttle or to drive an entertainment vehicle?
I believe it has to do with the weight of the vehicle, and that has been rectified too. And
Any additional questions? Thank you very much.
thank you.
Party and ride.
Hello, how's everybody doing? Good. My name is Derek Mayberry. I'm the owner of Party and Ride Nashville. And we're not new either. We've been out here for over 3 years. We came out of COVID with a different business. We've been out here doing small business for up to almost 30 years. And back in 2019 with our other business, we won the SBA Small Business Minority of the Year for 2019. So, but that COVID ended that business, and it forced us to have to regroup and do something different. So we started with the party buses. So once we started with the party buses, that's when the rules and regulations, they hadn't been in effect yet. So once the rules and regulations became in effect, last year we missed the enrollment period. But once we found out what was needed, because we wasn't in the loop, we didn't know, everything was new. It was new to us, it was new to y'all, so everything was new. So just in fairness, we went to Billy and talked to Billy, and we was one of the first ones that had our permits in. We had our permit in August 18, 2022. And, you know, we just speaking on fairness today as far as the permits that we was trying to get. You know, as far as the safety of our buses 3 years ago was hauling Williamson County kids around. We didn't do anything to the exterior of our buses, but we did do it to the interior. So once we did that, we didn't cut the roofs off our buses because some of our buses got air conditioning on them. We didn't want to be bothered with the rain. We want to be bothered with the different things that would involve cutting the roofs off. We never had a music problem because our roofs is on, so you can't hear the music like that. As far as, you know, the demographics of the people that we have, I noticed that everything is about being downtown, Broadway. We don't want to be on Broadway. That's not one of our places. But we do, when we do shuttles or when people want to be dropped off or whatever, we do have to drop off downtown because a lot of people are tourists and they want to be downtown. But that's not one of our main places that we want to be. I mean, you know, we hear about the problem downtown. We hear about the problem, traffic being slow. But I don't really see that as a problem because Monday through Thursday is not a problem. Even on Sunday, it's not a problem. Now, it may be a problem on Fridays and Saturdays because everybody's getting out partying and want to have a good time on the weekend. So I don't see it being a problem like they're really making it. And the study that they say they done, I don't understand that either. And then just in all fairness, since I have been out here for over 3 years, I truly feel like all 7 of these new people that's trying to get permits should get a fair share of permits, especially before they give people who got permits more permits. You know, and that's just my take on that. You got anything? Yeah, so yeah, that's our stance on that as far as that. But we just here, we've been out here for 3 years. This is most definitely our livelihood. Like I say, my business got shut down that I was running in 2019 where we won the award with. It was in the car business, wasn't no cars out there, so we had to come up with something different. So now we got a lot of money tied up into these buses, and then all of a sudden these rules come, and these, you know, the rules right to this day are still kind of uncertain of what's needed and what's not needed. So, I mean, that's our stance. We're trying to feed our families and make sure that, you know, without having to go out and reinvent stuff, sell the buses or whatever, we need the permits so we can operate.
Right now, you're operating as a shuttle.
Correct.
And if you are awarded a permit, where do you anticipate operating your entertainment vehicle if you're not going to be mainly downtown?
On the outer loops of downtown, we go to like different places in Germantown. We go to different places over there in the art district in Buchanan. The places that we go, 70% is not downtown because
It's for a different demographic, if you would.
and we're just not downtown. We don't even like being downtown.
Like you said, we do shuttle. They want to be dropped off downtown after a party or whatever. That's on them. We drop them off, and we keep it moving back to. And our pickup and drop off location isn't to be downtown. We're way out on Bradley Park.
East Thompson Lane.
East Thompson Lane. So we don't want to be in that slow traffic. It's taking up their time. They don't want that. So, like I said, a lot of people want to be downtown. We don't. Period. Other than to do a drop off and maybe on the outer loops, Veterans Memorial, around to Rosa Parks, over to Buchanan, all in that area, because it's clubs for our generation or our
Culture.
ethnicity or our culture. So that's where they want to go. And I mean, it's not fair to just subject it to people that want to be in the downtown area when there are other companies out here that don't even want to be down there like that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Mayberry?
It appears that there were three citations that were referenced here. Do you want to just kind of provide comment on why
How many
Park and
citations?
Ride was operating without a
All of them on the
certificate?
same one. So that was a drop off for a shuttle. They wanted to be dropped off downtown. And when he pulled up over in a no loading zone next to a hotel so they could run in and
They was getting dropped off at the hotel, but is it three or is this one?
It's one.
Oh, okay.
It's,
It was actually, that particular night, they would have cited you for operating an entertainment bus, loading a violation, the driver didn't have a permit. Were there any activities on the bus at that moment while it was acting as a shuttle? Was it?
I got it.
You don't know the question yet. Was it in an entertainment? Was there any standing? Was there any alcohol or music present? Or was it just shuttle and they were seated when you pulled over?
They were seated. They were, actually, I think whenever he pulled them over, they was already getting off the bus.
Yeah, well, we would not have pulled you over. You would have already been parked.
That's what I'm saying. They
Yeah.
was already off the bus. So they
Okay.
was done. They was already dropped off at that time.
Yeah, and of course, that'll be an issue you'll need to take up with the judge at that time, but they'll,
I didn't even, okay. And at the same time, that driver who was driving, he is on the permit, on the application.
all right, thank you.
And Billy, I do want to say this. So I was one of the first.
He was the very first person to apply after last year's cycle. We held his permit. I was concerned I might lose it. I had it so long. So we put it in a prominent place to make sure it would be ready.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Fields, quick question. Operating as a shuttle, aren't there specific drop-off and stop locations that are required to be filed as part of the application?
If the shuttle is licensed under 674 of the Metropolitan Code of Law, which is for other passenger vehicles for hire, there would be places that we would have specific requirements in terms of making them load and unload in an approved zone. However, if the vehicle is larger, and this would be a larger vehicle, is above the limits that we can regulate, anything above 10,000 pounds and carries more than 15 passengers, we don't have authority over, and there are no licensing requirements in the city. So it's one of those places, so as long as this action is taking place and it's shuttling, then we wouldn't have authority. If the action becomes entertainment, then it could have been a violation, which is what will have to be discussed in court through these citations.
and that's what it appears two of the three, deal with. The preamble question is it an entertainment vehicle or a shuttle? Because if it's a shuttle, then you wouldn't have violations. I'm not sure about the loading violation. Would that be regardless?
That would be regardless. And in a different section of Metro courts.
Any other considerations for Party and Ride before we move on? All right, I presume you guys are nomadic genius? Yes? Yeah.
Correct. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. Jamie Holland on behalf of the applicants. And Mr. Fields made a great segue, because if I could start out by showing a picture of the vehicle that they use, fully enclosed, seated, no alcohol, unique to every other applicant that's been approved. And and I would submit the convenience and necessity is demonstrated by the demand for the market of this type of transportation. It was our understanding last year about this time that we fell under OPVH laws, not ET laws. Mr. Field directed us as such, and we felt like we didn't need to apply for an ET permit because at the time it came along, ET permit window had already closed. Since that time, things changed, and it was relayed to me that they needed to apply for an ET permit. So when that analysis changed, we did as instructed. Came down here, made an application. We are enclosed. As you saw the vehicle, we keep up with the flow of traffic, not even remotely involved in slowing traffic down, maintain speeds capable of speeds that are allowed on the interstate. This is the type of vehicle desired by this commission to operate. Any sound, to the extent there's any sound, if any, it stays in. No stops and starts, along the route. It's a genuine tour. It's in and out of downtown. Is not maintained exclusively in town. Does mural tours, goes around town, outside of downtown. A box truck with windows. As far a lot of locals. This is not a party crowd type of event. Customers will pick up food somewhere at some restaurant and eat as they go. They also go outside, as I said, outside of downtown. It's not a party crowd. And with that, and particularly in light of the confusion and being unregulated as OPVH, and then told to come into the entertainment window, I would submit we're still sightseeing. However, not bad actors. I think there was honest mistakes that were made and no malfeasance by anyone. And I would ask for you to take that into consideration. And pending your questions, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions for Tasty Ride?
Yes. Is there alcohol if the patrons
We lost your speaker.
if the patrons pick up alcohol, are they allowed to drink alcohol in this vehicle?
No, that would be a BYOB permit. No, and we're not interested in that.
Okay. There's music played? Are they seated the whole time?
Yes.
It's like a dinner table inside a box.
Yes. Correct. Yeah, it was initially our idea was to create like a ride and dine type of feature, giving people the opportunity to see different views in Nashville while eating dinner. The Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays and restaurants in Nashville are very difficult to find tables from 9 to 12 people. So we constructed a table that sat more than 9 people to give people an opportunity to be able to have a larger group and not have to pay for a rental of a room. And it just, if you've ever tried to get a large group in a restaurant downtown, you've known it's very difficult to do. So that initially the idea was ride and dine to give our people an opportunity to eat dinner and see Nashville in a different way.
Where does the vehicle, what's the route?
So it really is, it varies because each group has different expectations. So we meet with the people who want to take the tour up front, and we discuss the needs that they have. If it's for murals, for example, then we're going to take them to see a variety of different murals in downtown. It's a very popular thing to do now. But some people like to see historical parts of Nashville. Some want to do both. Some like to just see what Nashville looks like as a whole. And it's not the downtown. It's really, they want to see the things that they're already here seeing the downtown and they're walking it. And now they want to see an opportunity to see more of downtown that's not like walking distance. So we're taking them to like Division and Music Row and other parts outside of downtown because those are the requests that we get. So to answer your question fully, it varies from tour to tour. It's really almost every tour has been different. There's some overlapping parts, but generally there are a variety of different types of tours.
Where do you pick up and drop off?
So currently, we've done it on First and Broadway, but we also own properties in North Nashville where we can meet our guests at our properties and load and offload.
And we've had requests for, we pick us up at our hotel. So if there's a hotel that, allows us to be able to pull up, we can pick them up as long as it's granted, So we have permissions from certain hotels to be able to pull up and pick up their guests.
Yeah. We work with the JW Marriott a lot with our
Virgin
concierge.
Hotel.
And they ask us to, so we pick up their guests at their hotel if that's in fact the people. But again, there's so many places to, that are, and people that have needs, it changes a lot. But our homes on North Nashville are an easy one for us because we own the properties and it's just easy to meet. It's within 7-8 minutes of everything that we want to generally see.
But, essentially it's like they're touring Nashville, they're seeing the Ryman, they want to see the Country Music Hall of Fame. They want to see Second Avenue. They want to go down and see what's the history. And so we have, we give them the tour, the vocal tour. So this is this place, and this is where the history, and this is who played, and they love that stuff. So we give them like a vocal tour through the whole experience. And it's a panoramic view because you've got floor to ceiling glass windows. So they get to kind of see Nashville with a different perspective.
In regards to the vehicle that we use, it's like seeing a unicorn. There are only about 30 of these in the United States of America. They're not made any longer. They were made in 2007. in 2008. We operated these vehicles as mobile billboard vehicles for the last 15 years, and we repurposed this one specifically and had it completely renovated on the inside to meet, this type of need. But they're very rare to see, and which is why there's so much enjoyment people get out of being inside it. It's like you're in a parade a lot of times. People are smiling from ear to ear, and the tours that we've done were all 5-star reviews. Everyone absolutely loves it and recommends us to other people because they feel like it's such a unique and amazing experience to be inside a glass wall truck, because it's just not something that you see hardly ever. Like I said, there's only 30 of these in the whole country.
Yeah, we created for something that's something that we wanted to do. We wanted to be able to experience. We cater to a lot of locals, as well as tourists, but we have a lot of locals, we do kids' birthdays and anniversaries, and, we have team builders, corporate meetings, believe it or not. So, we're very active with our community and the local community. And, it's something like, so if I want to go downtown, I can take my vehicle and have some friends and see it in a different way, because I'm not going to be going into bars and all that stuff.
And I would add to speak specifically to their initial application, and this is not me advocating one way or the other, it's just, I want to make sure I state a fact. They did apply as an OPVH company. They began the process, would have come in front of the commission. When the full examination of their application came forward, we examined the weight of the vehicle, and the vehicle weighs more than 10,000 pounds. So this process had already begun last year, so then we basically said you can't be an OPVH, and then that's when the encouragement saying but you could be, if you operate in this manner, it appears to me that you'd be an ET. So that's what got them here. Is that
Correct.
okay?
How many of the Nomadic Genius advertising trucks do you guys still own, or do you own any?
4.
4.
Yes. We have LED trucks, and there are other types of static trucks.
Are they are there times, I guess, when all 4 of those or 3 of those are on the streets?
I think during CMA in 2017, it's very rare that happens. But it has happened. We at one point had a fleet of 8 vehicles, and they operated at different times of the day. Some of the rear projection trucks that we use were for night only, and then so they operated from 7 o'clock until 11 o'clock at night during when there's big events and things like that going on. There's a lot of people, and then other trucks maintained a 9:30 to 5:30 operation, so they'd be during the day. But a lot of the usage of them is designed on a contract basis. So if we're going to open a grocery store or help open a gas station or a product rollout, when the needs arise is when they're being used. So there's really hard to say, at any given time how many could be out. But generally speaking, over a course of a month, I would say almost never are they all out at the same time.
Right. And usually one is used for a backup if we have to fix the other truck, and it's repairs and whatnot. So we always have backups. For instance, like McDonald's, they would book us, and we would sit stationary for the 4th of July when they would block off 4th of July for the fireworks, and McDonald's would get a permit, and we'd work with the convention center, and they would have tastings. So it's
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nashville Underground. Nashville Underground.
Good afternoon. Kurt Clements, I'm General Counsel for Nashville Underground. Given my limited time, I'd like to just focus on the considerations under your rules that you must consider that are specific to Nashville Underground. Skipping down to number 3, the applicant's experience in the operation of an ETC and its vehicles. This is our first permit for a entertainment vehicle. However, we have a sister company, the Nashville Armory, that runs shuttles and have done so without any issues. So that is our experience. I also would point out that we have been on Broadway for over 10 years, since 2011, have had a liquor license, a beer permit, etc. and have, I think we've had one violation related to our liquor permit early on when we opened up. But otherwise, we have an exceptional record for complying with the state and local laws related to serving alcohol. We also employ a retired police officer as our director of security, and he goes to great lengths to train our staff for security purposes and complying with the local laws and the state laws related to serving alcohol. We, of course, don't have any history of violations related to ETs, as this is our first application. I've already referenced our compliance with the laws and regulations that do apply to us, as we've functioned as a business for greater than 10 years. But certainly we'll use that same structure and management to ensure that we comply with all local laws and regulations related to ETs. With regard to financial responsibility and our condition, again, we have been in business for over 10 years, have all insurance policies in place. It's been a very profitable business for Nashville Underground. I think we are unique in being, can I have an additional 30 seconds? Okay. Well, I would say that we are unique in that we have a brick and mortar on Broadway and are just simply seeking to expand the entertainment options we provide to our customers.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Clements?
The brick and mortar, the underground, that's on Second Avenue?
It's on Broadway.
On
Yes, sir.
Broadway?
Towards the,
You're looking to take patrons out of that building after they are eating or drinking in there, or what's the plan?
I mean, not necessarily. They would go online like most of these businesses and reserve the option to ride the tractor trailer, which they could purchase a ticket right inside the door. We will have that option, yes.
Kind of piggybacking on Commissioner Carr's question, given your brick and mortar location and its location downtown on Broadway, where are your pickup and drop-off locations going to be, and what is the foreseeable expansion of the business that you are kind of contemplating? He asked, are you going to pick them up after they've been drinking inside the building and take them, or is it going to be a pickup spot somewhere away that then brings them down to the Nashville Underground? I'm just curious as to that foreseeable expansion.
Yeah, there's the turnabout there at the end of Broadway, which we could use, and also we've discussed there's a private parking lot behind our building that we could use. But again, the guests would have the option of purchasing the ticket within the facility or going online and purchasing a ticket.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Music City nightlife party tours. Lofton Lee LLC, doing business as Music City Brew Hop. Is that the one who removed their application?
Yes.
Application. That leaves us with Center Stage Transportation, doing business as Music City Pink Express.
How are you guys doing today? My name is Hunter Patterson. I am talking on behalf of Miss Devin Henry, the owner of Center Stage Transportation, as she is about 6 months pregnant and very sick this morning. She's my fiance. Miss Henry moved here from Las Vegas about 6 months ago after starting in a self-sustaining gym now. Wanted to come here because she loved the hospitality. I don't know if we have the pictures of them up or not. But our vehicles, guys, what we're trying to do, they're very light, very nimble vehicles. We originally came in here for the other passenger vehicle for hire as they were under 10,000 pounds. And then we decided that, I was instructed by Mr. Fields here that we needed to apply for ET permits as they fell under that criteria. Ms. Henry's goal with this business, you guys, is to create a kind of a curated tour per guest as they come in, give them multiple options to kind of pick and choose wherever they want to stop, like all within means. Everywhere that we stop, our pickup point is at Marathon Village in a private lot. So it's pickup end point, and then we would give them options of, you know, different places where they could go in, check out, either drop them off in a loading zone, give them a permittable amount of time while we sit and wait in a private lot or a permittable area, come back and pick them up after a lot of time and continue on. As I said, she is my fiance. I am the manager of the operations. I've been in this industry over 5 years, from driving pedal cabs to pedal taverns to party buses. I very well experienced in this industry with no infractions whatsoever. Our vehicles, drivers control the noise on, everything like that. So, I mean, we're a new business here, so we don't have any infractions. But we're just here trying to start a small business for our family.
Any questions for Mr. Patterson? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'll call one more time. Music City Nightlife Party Tours. This concludes hearing from our news certificate applicants. Mr. Fields, should we hear from everyone, or should we confer and make a decision regarding the news certificate applicants?
I'm going to defer to legal if there's a specific need to take one route or the other.
So I think I will say well back from the microphone. We're under the findings requirement section of 677030, and it's a two-part finding, and y'all already exercised the first part of that finding at last month's, well, the more recent late April meeting. And so the first finding is whether further and additional entertainment transportation vehicle services in the metropolitan government area is required by the public convenience and necessity. And in looking at that, you look at whether at a minimum you take into consideration the number of existing vehicles already in operation, whether existing service is adequate to meet the public need. So that finding has already been made and was made at the last meeting. The subsequent determination that you're really here to make today is whether each of these applicants is fit, willing, and able to provide such service and to conform to the provisions of this chapter. And in considering that, you can take into account their character, experience, financial condition, and responsibility of the applicant, as well as any other criteria in your rules. So what we did do in 2022 was make a distinction between ETVs that kind of have the party bus type format versus ETVs that are really more like a tour bus type format, which we called seated sightseeing vehicles. And so in the rules that were adopted, I think it was maybe May 2022, the rules you adopted actually made a distinction between making a finding of public inconvenience and necessity as to ETVs that are like the party bus type versus ETVs that are the seated sightseeing type. And so you made like that distinction last year. You did 39 of the party bus type and 50 of the ETV type, seated sightseeing type, excuse me. So I think that's not something that you did at last month's meeting. And I'm not saying you absolutely have to, but I think it would be helpful if you would maybe clarify your last month's finding as to whether the number of 35 to 70 was intended to be all inclusive of both categories of ETV.
My question was a little different. Because my interpretation of what we did last month was to decide that the number of entertainment transportation vehicles effective April 1st, or excuse me, May 1st, 2024, should be a range of 35 to 70. And then we as a commission renewed all existing permit holders, which is 87. It's my understanding that we have discretion to still award more if we so choose as a commission, or not as a commission. So my question was, can we make that decision regarding the new certificate applicant, excuse me, or do we need to also hear first from the existing certificate holders, or can we decide, are we going to award any to the new certificate holders and then hear from the existing certificate holders?
I mean, you can do it any way you want to, but it will be the same issue, because overall, you're looking at the public necessity and convenience, and you're also looking at the fitness and character of each business, whether that's for the purpose of granting a new certificate or adding additional permits to an existing certificate. I would say I wasn't sure that I had the same understanding last month. I kind of thought that the finding of 35 to 70 was based on current data, but I may have misunderstood.
Well, we were specifically told it could not go into effect until May 1st, 2024.
Right. What I was explaining was that we were not prepared to recommend that you go ahead and deny existing permits for renewal that were granted last year because if they did not have any reason not to be renewed, if they did not have any problems like disciplinary problems, or had paid all their fees, had like completed all administrative filing requirements, if people were otherwise in good order in that way. The way that the language of the Metro Code is currently worded, they would have a reasonable business expectation, or would have had back in June of 2022, that they would have maybe more than a year to operate beginning on that date. So yes, or late April, you all recommended the proposed ordinance to council that will change the aspects of Chapter 677 that address that issue. So that is going before council on first reading this coming Tuesday.
Mr. Chair, I mean, as we discussed it last week, reading through the traffic study that showed demonstrable evidence of traffic challenges, my interpretation, and even in questioning the traffic engineer, 2 months prior, was it was all slow-moving vehicles, that it was a significant impact, and this impact was significant today. And so while we may not be able to do anything about reducing overall permits, this meeting, there is a real problem right now. And our traffic study proved it. We all see it on the streets relative to demand. Relative to traffic. I do think that we could hear all of these cases, both the old and the new, at least in one of the conversations I had with council, before we deliberate if there's a need to go over the 70 threshold that we set previously.
Go ahead, Gary.
Can we take into account different business models when we're looking at these? I mean, I hate to bring another category, but I think there's something different from a touring bus and a party vehicle. I mean, there appears to be something in between the two. Does that make sense? Is that something we can take into account when we differentiate between applications?
Mr. Chair, would you like me to respond?
Yes.
In your regulations that were adopted in May 2022, you made the distinction only between two types of ETVs. The party bus type where people are allowed to stand and consume alcohol and dance and whatnot versus the seated sightseeing vehicles. So like of the ones that were just described to you, for example, it sounded to me like Nomadic Genius would be seated sightseeing vehicle rather than the other kind. But, as far as the third category is concerned, if somebody is providing pure transportation services, they can fit into one of two categories. So they can either be under 10,001 pounds and under 15 passengers, in which case they might meet the definition of a shuttle or limousine. And, that would be like point-to-point transportation, like, taking someone from the airport to their hotel or vice versa, or, other, destinations that they may wish to go to. But it would be more of a pure transportation purpose. Now, if they are under that 10,001 pound and 15 passenger capacity or size, then they would be within our ordinance, chapter 674, other passenger vehicles for hire, which includes shuttles and limousines. If they were over those thresholds, if the vehicle weighed more than 10,001 pounds and or seated, 16 or more passengers, then it would not be regulated by the TLC or by Metro. It would remain under the regulation. If it's being used for purely transportation purposes, it would remain under the regulation of the Tennessee Department of Safety.
To add on to Mr. Rogers' question, if the company is representing itself as not operating primarily downtown, is that something we can take into consideration?
So, yes, I think, yes, but I think you may want to take that into account in the context of a future rulemaking opportunity. So we have talked about you having the ability to set like zones of operation. So certainly, you could divide, the metro area into different zones of operation and take that into consideration in your granting of permits. The other option, I guess, is if somebody is actually operating primarily or principally outside of the county altogether, then again, we may not have jurisdiction over them at all. Then it would be Department of Safety again.
I think the slippery slope that I'm hearing here is until we form a zone, what's the determination of not really downtown? What street is outlying versus, I dipped into the inner loop down by Farmers Market, but just so that I could get over toward Rosa Parks. Or, again, that word, I primarily do not operate downtown. Doesn't mean I do not. So how much time can they spend downtown? How many days out of the month can they spend downtown? When can they be downtown? In that it's 20% of their business, 15% of their business, 30% of their business. Without establishing a zone or, a very specific area, how can we possibly police that?
Well, where I'm coming from is at our last meeting 2 weeks ago, we went very long, very late. We were running out of time. It was one business day left before we were told by legal that we had to do something regarding the permit holders, the existing permit holders, and to make a decision. We were not able to award provisionally any renewed permits so that we could have a more structured meeting. I think there's a fundamental fairness problem in the way we were forced to handle renewals of existing certificate holders versus consideration of new applicants, and they had to be divided. And so right now, we've got our new applicants before us, many of whom seem perfectly adequate, more than adequate to operate an entertainment vehicle. We decided at our last meeting that the proper range in terms of a number of entertainment vehicles was between 35 and 70, but that could not go into effect until May 1st, 2024, because under our current ordinance by Metro, we do not have authority to lower the number. So for this year, we have 87 at least that are going to be operating. We had 89 last year. And so I believe we can certainly consider awarding additional permits.
I'm 100% with you.
Okay.
I'm just on the idea of doing it based on how often they're going to be downtown on that basis. I think that's a very slippery slope at this point. I absolutely think it is a great idea that there is a huge area being covered by two categories when there are multiple slots in between. The dining a la glace, for lack of another term for it, is a very unique category that to me doesn't really fall in seating, sightseeing tour, and they're not dancing, drinking alcohol. So, where do you put them? The same way when the genre for the party bus, who their primary operation is outside of the loop, but every now and then they drop people off downtown. But at this point, under the two categories we have, my question is, what are the considerations?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Legal brought up, and I want to get a clarification because we have approved the meeting minutes from last meeting. This 35 to 70, she questioned whether that was ET and sightseeing or not. My vote at that time was based on them all. That was a collective of all types of vehicles being 35 to 70. Is that?
That's correct.
I think that's fair.
Okay.
Fair interpretation.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
In following up on the conversation with Commissioner Carr, I hear where you're coming from in terms of it being a slippery slope and not having those defined zones and the defined categories and the different types of vehicles that we would have. I do think, however, that really it's a question of honestly the for lack of a better term, the testimony that we hear before this commission and the credibility of the operators in presenting kind of what their plan is as it would affect traffic flow, would affect the number of vehicles operating in a particular area or not, the needs for particular groups and individuals of people. I think in with respect to, the applicant Party and Ride, I'm new to the commission. However, I haven't seen as many minority-owned businesses that are focused more on a demographic that's not your typical Broadway downtown demographic, that may be servicing other areas and going to different locales, but also providing that type of service. And so I think kind of as we look at the totality and we look at kind of our guidelines and what we take into consideration, I think certainly kind of hearing that testimony can be weighed without it becoming necessarily we haven't made a determination as to this particular zone or that particular type of effect on a study.
And just to clarify, I brought it up so that, to bring the question up so that all our minds are kind of on the same train as before it comes to a vote as to approve or deny, as that we all realize what we're doing and what the effect is and the longevity or the, the result of it all. So I brought it up just so that we get on the same track, because I agree with you. I just want to make sure that when we're listening to them talk, we're all listening in the same way, if you could.
So, Mr. Chair, in listening to our council and sort of outlining that our job is really twofold. One is to take this look at whether further additional permits are needed for public need and convenience and necessity, and then whether or not applicants are sort of fit, willing, and able. It seems to me that for existing permit holders, we made that decision about fit, willing, and able last month. So for this second group of folks in our meeting today, the issue is more about how many should we have, as opposed to whether or not the second prong, whether they're fit, willing, and able to hold a permit. Whereas for the first group that we just heard from, it really is that two-pronged question. Do I have that right?
I think that's correct. Because the issue is we do not have the authority currently to lower the number.
Right.
And, but we did decide that if we had that authority, we would lower the number, with the understanding that it would not go into effect for a year, because legal has advised us that there's a reasonable expectation that an existing permit holder under the current ordinance would be renewed, subject to them being fit,
willing,
and able.
And I guess, so I feel like we made that determination for each of them, or we would have denied one or more permits last time.
Right.
Okay.
We did make that determination. It was, again, unfortunate that it was compressed and that we were unable to hear from the new certificate applicants when that decision was made. I guess I would add that if we do decide to award additional permits today for the coming year, that I do not think that that is inconsistent with our determination that should the Metro Council amend the ordinance to allow us to lower the number going forward, that's necessarily inconsistent. I don't think that's inconsistent.
I agree.
I disagree. I mean, I do believe that if we go over the 70 or the 87, we did clearly find, we had traffic studies and traffic consultants present to us very, very clear data on the severe traffic problems that these vehicles cause. 8 seconds per vehicle take 8 seconds of delay per vehicle in the network. So if you have 10,000 vehicles in the network times 8 seconds, you're hundreds of hours of delay that we're causing by approving more. We found that. We had traffic studies and not presented it to us. That's right now.
Well, this commission renewed 87 permits 2 weeks ago.
We did, because we didn't have an ability yet to reduce it to 70 to 35. But it doesn't mean we have to go more today. We could find more, but it would be very inconsistent with the finding that we made and that we all voted on last week.
All right, well, I think the safe thing to do is to go ahead and hear from the existing certificate holders before we make the ultimate determination then. So I'll call on Tennessee Transport Holdings.
How are you guys? Michael Winters, It's actually TN Transport Holdings. They spell Tennessee, which is fine, but I couldn't find it on the paper when I first looked. Jamie obviously is here to represent TN Transport Holdings and also the Nashville Tractor. For TN Transport Holdings, just some cliff notes for you. The DBA on that is Cruisin' Nashville. We used to operate 28 low-speed vehicles, golf carts, in Nashville. We have surrendered all of those permits, taking 28 vehicles off the street. At this point, we hold 4 sightseeing vehicle permits for sightseeing vehicles under the ET rules. On the application, we submitted for 2 more vehicles, giving us a total of 6, obviously, which is way down from the number of 28 that we surrendered with the low-speed vehicles during that process. Other than that, we're just trying to meet demand. I'll take any questions you have as it relates. I have pictures of vehicles if you want to see them or what have you. But
Was that surrender, did we kind of do that as a bargain? I know we've done that before.
no, that was the guy that did the pedaling and said, I'll give up all my pedal bikes for a bar bike.
So you did that without having to say, okay, if you give me, I'll give you.
Correct. There was no negotiating, although I'll use it right now if it helps.
Nunk, pro tunk. Mr. Chairman.
Are you the ones that say, I got plowed on the front?
You got it. Although that's not TN Transport Holdings, that's Nashville Tractor.
That's Nashville Tractor.
Correct.
Where do they come from when you come out?
Well, you see them out your office window, so we're coming out of Fessler.
Out of Fessler Lane. What time do you leave Fessler Lane, and how long does it take to get to 2nd and Korean Veterans
Depends on the
Boulevard?
time of day. If there's no traffic, it's a 15-minute ride down the road. If there's traffic, it could be 45 minutes. Just depends on traffic flows and what's going on.
But you leave at 6 p.m. If we're off the road from 4 to 6 p.m., you'd leave at 6?
Well, off the road at 6. I mean, 4 to 6. You mean off the road at 4?
You're off the road at 4 until 6.
No, we don't have to be. We can't have passengers during that time. We can move vehicles during that time. So that's why you see them outside your window between 4 and 6. We're moving vehicles.
So how do I see one at 5:59 p.m. at 2nd and Korean Veterans on Friday with a passenger in it?
At 5:59?
At 5:59.
I'm going to guess we're probably getting ready to load, or maybe somebody is checking it out. It's 1 minute before 6, to be very candid. I'm not quite sure.
Right, but if it was coming from Fessler's Lane, it shouldn't have been at 2nd and Korean Veterans.
What's actually not a passenger, we have a pickup and drop-off location at 2nd and Broadway. We're bringing our crew downtown that check people in.
That passenger is likely an employee, Commissioner Hayes.
No passengers are picked up at Fessler currently. Although that is the intention in the next 30 to 45 days.
And are we on the sightseeing tours, or is that Q&A about the other
company
operation? The other operation.
Q&A about the other operation.
Thank you very much.
So TN Transport Holdings, in a nutshell, is a competitor of Hop-on, Hop-off Trolley. We do the same kind of thing.
Any additional questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And does that cover us for TAN assets
Yes.
also? Thank you,
Yes.
Mr. Chairman.
Tennessee Transport Services doing business as Joyride.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm Chris Osmer, from the founder of Joyride and TN Transport. We operate 38 golf carts in Nashville for, I think, the last 13 years now. So we've been around a while. Most of our vehicles, and we actually applied for 16 permits. And, you know, the difficult part about this is a lot of us have been in business here for many, many years. And so for this last year, new people have started when we stopped. And so now we have new buses and new vehicles and new things being built over this last year that y'all are letting run. When we were cut in half, we had 16 vehicles purchased. We were running multiple vehicles for years. And now we have to worry about getting cut down even more, even though we already have vehicles built. I mean, they're setting in parking lots right now. We had tours lined up. So our monster trucks are probably the number one things for kids to do in the city. There's not much for kids to do. All of our trucks are under 10,000 pounds. They're seated, no alcohol. And the reason they exist is me and my son saw it on Craigslist and purchased a monster truck. What 6-year-old kid doesn't want a monster truck? So we're trying to, most of our tours are to provide family entertainment. We have a tractor that's a seated, non-alcohol sightseeing tractor. So they sit down the whole time. They have a tour guide on it. And so most of our vehicles do compete with hop on, hop off trolley, and they're sightseeing. We do have another, we had another business plan that somebody had brought up one time about the silent disco, and we actually wanted a silent disco bus. So that was one of the things we were trying to work out and have built, but whenever the TLC put the rules into place, we stopped that. So, you know, if anybody has any more questions, I'm just trying to figure out, you know, we're fighting over all these new permits when we already had people here that already had vehicles. They were already built. They were already being used. And now we have to just sit back and watch everybody else run while our vehicles set still because we're trying to do the right thing. But anybody has any more questions? That's really about it.
When you say we're allowing others to operate, do you mean we're not ticketing?
Yeah, they just say everybody here seems to be in business. So everybody who's applying for permits and things like that, should we just start new companies and put trucks out there in different names? No, we're trying to do the right thing. We already had things built. We already had people working. We already had tours booked. But now it's every week some new person comes with a new vehicle. It gets put out there when we have vehicles waiting. We already had these. It's great to hear about new tours being built and generated, but you already told us no more vehicles. This is what we do. This is the permits we were going to give you, and that was it. So we stopped. But we were here first. We already put in the hundreds of thousands of dollars and the time and effort that it was to build these vehicles. There's only a couple of us in here that have been doing this long. And it's a little upsetting to see my guys in the streets telling me about some new project or something else rolling. And there's just, and then people come up here and they say, oh, we don't have alcohol in our vehicles. Well, check their Facebooks. Every photo, alcohol. BYOB. Most of them lie about their situations just because they want to skirt the line. We had people like us who, we built a bar, we pick up at a particular location right outside the Gulch. It's called the Green Light. So we have a particular pickup and drop-off location. That's where the restrooms is. That's where the beverages are purchased. We have a package-to-go license. We've put the insurance together. We've spent the money. We've purchased the vehicles. We've been here for years and have been practicing this. And now just people come every year with a new idea. And it's just like, what about us? Existing permit holders. But what about us first? I think we should be speaking first, and something should have been done about us instead of about anybody else that comes along. Because we were here first and we followed the rules first.
Any additional questions? Thank you.
Thanks.
RLCL Acquisition, doing business as Gray Line of Tennessee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. First of all, I want to express our appreciation for the 9 permits that were approved at the last meeting. We appreciate that very much. Additional licenses, we've requested 12 this year. Additional licenses are needed because our passenger count for our 3 downtown tour products are up 42% year-to-date, 23 over 22. Our 2 daytime downtown tours are off the road, of course, before the blackout period of 4 o'clock, and we don't come back after that afternoon drive blackout period ends, with the exception of our night trolley, which we don't run every day. We run a night trolley periodically that doesn't start back up until 7 o'clock in the evenings. None of the tours that we're requesting these licenses for make frequent stops. In fact, the 2, the city tour and the night trolley make 0 stops in the downtown core, and then our Discover Nashville tour does make a stop at the Ryman and also at the Country Music Hall of Fame over the course of our 50 years of business here in Nashville. We've developed long-time partnerships with both the Country Music Hall of Fame and with Ryman Auditorium. Our total sightseeing passenger volume this year is up 50% year-to-date. The tours that we offer outside of the downtown core are actually up a little bit further than our downtown products. All of our tours originate from the WeGo train station there at First and Broad in the Court of Flags on First Avenue. We lease the train station from WeGo as part of our contract with Gray Line to operate the regional transit lines for them. And of course, we have a permit that we renew annually with the Parks Department for access to the Court of Flags. And we're requesting the 12 licenses that we did last year. We were granted 9. And we're simply requesting the same total number again this year as our growth certainly suggest a legitimate need. One thing that came up last meeting was the number of permits versus the number of vehicles that are actually out moving about downtown at any one time. I'm happy to address that if anybody has a question about that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Redneck Comedy Tour. Old Town Trolley Tours of Nashville.
Good afternoon. My name is Steve Burris, the General Manager of Old Town Trolley Tours. We also want to thank you for the 18 permits that you granted us a couple of weeks ago now. We appreciate the opportunity to operate those vehicles. We currently have 74 employees from the hospitality sector, and with continuing to hire, we expect to reach 100 plus by the time we are fully staffed. There's a big difference in what seated sightseeing companies do compared to the companies that you were asked to regulate by Metro Council. We reach daily capacity and have visitors to Nashville who are turned away due to limited capacity, which is why we are asking for the additional permits to grant us 24. This year, Nashville expects to welcome 15 million visitors, which is 5% more than last year. When we opened our operation in Nashville, we made a substantial investment to operate in the city. Your limitations on permits have been granted, that we have been granted. We have $1.5 million in assets that we are unable to operate. When determining the number of permits to operate in the city, we hope that you will ensure that the legitimate seated sightseeing companies are excluded from your reduction in permits and further from the rules and regulations. A slow-moving vehicle does not have the ability to travel at interstate speeds and operate across state lines. Take that into consideration, please, of those who need permits and those who do not. As was mentioned in the last meeting, if you see one of our vehicles moving slowly in traffic, take a look at what is in front of them, which is causing the delay. We have the support and are in support of the organizations who have stood behind these regulations, and they will tell you that we are not the problem that is meant to be solved. For these reasons, we are asking to grant 24 permits that we requested.
Any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Just one question. Do you guys have any ability to do better route planning to keep multiple buses from the intersection of 2nd and Broadway?
We have one vehicle that comes in and it leaves before a second one comes in. That happened as of last November.
So there is some sort of a GPS or something that would prohibit, or radio communication that prohibits. Yeah, often, and I can't discern between now and November. I would come through the intersection and have 2 or 3 buses there blocking a lane of traffic.
Right, and we fixed that problem, and it is radio communication.
Do you guys have any plans to move off street and onto the property that you own at 2nd and Broadway?
That would cause more traffic issues because pulling a vehicle that is 42 feet out onto Broadway from that parking lot blocks lanes of traffic going in both directions. We were asked when mentioning that to the Department of Transportation, please don't.
Don't make a left in and then a right out on Broadway. A left in off of 2nd and a right out on Broadway was the request.
Left off of 2nd?
2nd into your parking lot and then a right onto Broadway.
A right onto Broadway, that is correct. It would block both lanes of traffic.
Because of the swing.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Nashville Ultimate Party Bus.
Hi. Kelly, this is Heather. We started Ultimate Party Bus in 2018, and by 2022, we had 5 buses on the road. Last year, we were cut. We were awarded 1 ET, 2 sightseeing. We restructured our business, rebranded for sightseeing, even though we were only used to the entertainment buses. On our application, we requested all 5 buses to be permitted for ET, but we're really just hoping to have our 2 sightseeing switched over to ET, as this has been very difficult. We're not given the same rights as a trolley or a gray line.
I'll just add, there's trolley stops all over the city. We're not allowed to go there. We can't stop there. There's very minimal load in, load out zones that we can stop at for our customers to take pictures. Usually it says 3 to 5 minutes. If I've got a bus full of 30 people, I can't get those people in and out in 3 to 5 minutes. It's unfair. We get complaints that they don't get the time at each stop. If I try to go down West End, we get honked at, we get flicked off, we get calls, we get bad reviews because we're not in our zone, and they don't understand that I've been permitted for sightseeing because all they're seeing is this, woohoo party vehicle going down the road. It's just not, it's not what we thought it was when we said last year, we'll take 2 sightseeing and 1 entertainment vehicle. We thought we could work with that, but it's just not turned out the way we expected it.
We end up just doing a lot of mural tours.
We do mural tours, but even then, it's like, where can I pull over? Where can I stop with that vehicle? Because we're not given those same rights as the trolley people because they have their trolley stops. Well, we don't. We've tried stopping there before. We get screamed at. Or ticketed, yes. So, or threatened for tickets.
So
we're just asking
2 sightseeing to be switched over.
It's no more buses.
No additional.
There's no additional buses. We'll scratch that unless you want to give us 1 or 2 more, but highly doubtful. But so there, we're just asking for our same 3, but just to switch over.
So at our meeting 2 weeks ago, you were
Yes.
renewed for 1 entertainment vehicle and then 2 sightseeing. So now you're asking just to have them reallocated to 3 entertainment?
Correct, yes.
Any questions?
Does the application reflect that? The application reflects.
The application would be that, I think at this point, the application was for 5 ETs.
That's a good question. You said you can't stop at what, trolley stops?
We're not allowed to stop there, no.
What's a trolley stop?
Well, there's one, we were just talking about it, the one at 2nd and Broadway, there's one at Music Marathon Works, they're all over the city. But those are 2 specific examples.
So you're talking about public right of way or private property?
The trolley tours that were just up here, they have specific stops for their vehicles.
On private property?
On public.
It's on the street.
They negotiated with Traffic and Parking Commission to get shuttle stops for the hop-on, hop-off traffic. So that
Oh,
one at
that's
2nd and
specific.
that one at 2nd and Broadway has been problematic for years. The one in the Country Music Hall of Fame is problematic sometimes with other buses for people coming in. But they've negotiated specifically with Traffic and Parking to have their own.
I mean, we even get looked at by the traffic.
That one company?
That one company.
Oh, really?
Correct.
So just
In the public right away.
Right, yeah.
So just for clarity, the application this year, and I'm kind of looking at you, Mr. Fields, was for the Elephant Party Bus was for 5 ETs.
Correct.
But then we just kind of renewed 1 ET and 2 sightseeing.
Correct.
In our last meeting.
Is it accurate to say that sightseeing vehicles are not permitted to stop at these so-called trolley stops?
I obviously can't speak for the Traffic and Parking Commission, but the Traffic and Parking Commission has the sole authority to make determinations of loading and unloading zones. It's my memory is I don't negotiated, may have not been the word, but certainly an application to the Traffic and Parking Commission in requesting. Anybody can make a request to the Traffic and Parking Commission for the designation of space. Whether or not they would approve it would be very much like your approval process. And again, as I look at the Deputy Director of NDOT, Brad Freeze, he certainly is much more equipped to talk about it, but if you'd like to talk about the Traffic and Parking Commission aspect.
Yeah, so they do submit a request through traffic and parking. It comes before the commission. There are specific guidelines that they have to follow. There is a cost associated with, like, for example, the valet zone. I mean, there's a cost that they have to pay Metro for that space based on whether there, for example, if there's parking, on-street parking there, they have to pay Metro for the lost revenue of that space. But yes, then if approved by traffic and parking, it would be put it out there and signed. So that is their authority to do so, correct?
One question with respect to that. When you say they, are you referring to any trolley tour, any sightseeing tour, any ETV generally could make that application to use these locations? Or is it strictly a trolley vehicle or a sightseeing vehicle who may make that application?
No, it would be any who could come and submit the request.
Okay, so to remedy their inability to stop at trolley stops, they would need to make an application to use those areas, or are they prohibited from doing that?
They're specifically permitted toward the permit applicant who is actually applying for that application to do that. So they would be associated with that one permit.
It would not be unlike what the Parks Department has done in the Court of Flags down at the foot of Broadway. Those are all permitted areas. In order to use that compliantly with the Metropolitan Code of Law, you have to have a permit from Parks. So when you get onto the public right-of-way, echoing NDOT comment is, you know, you would have to be compliant, you'd have to go in front of the Traffic and Parking Commission to seek their approval for a specific use. Just as you give approval for specific use.
Is there a finite number for each one of those stops? Say, 3 permitted for the trolley stops, 5 permitted for the trolley, or is that open to an indefinite number as long as the applications and fees are paid?
It's completely spelled out as far as the specific width that they're actually granted in the permit, and that's evaluated by staff who permit recommendations to Traffic and Parking Commission. So similar to what you've gone through and talked about the number of ETV vehicles that are allowed, we would go through, through traffic engineering study and measure. They would actually submit a request for the size, say, be it 2 spots, 1 spot, based on the size of their vehicles. But we would recommend, as part of NDOT in our staff analysis, what we would grant them as far as how that impacts on the street. There is no number currently, but we look at that when we're doing that. And that's actually part of the current Connect Downtown study. There's actually a curb moratorium out there where we've actually suspended granting any permits like that.
Are there any other of these companies that have the same deal that the trolley tour does?
I think Old Town Trolley may be the only one who actually has specific trolley stop.
So, and that's a long-standing deal.
The permit goes back several years.
Okay.
is what I
After the
understand.
Connect Downtown study, is it possible that they'll lose that?
It is very possible.
Very possible.
Yeah.
That's what I figured. And I heard you talk about parks down at they have control over that? Excuse me.
The Metropolitan Charter gives parks specific authority over property that they have, so their control is charter-driven, is my understanding anyway. Again, legal could probably correct me on that, but they make the determination on use of parks property, and since Riverfront Park, it'd be just like going to Centennial Park or anything else. It may not look like a park, in a traditional sense of playgrounds and all that, but it's certainly a park.
Sorry to hold this one up. So just so I understand your application, you have 2 existing sightseeing permits. You have 1 existing ETV permit, but you've come before the commission asking for 5 additional ETV permits.
Not 5 additional. We have 5 vehicles total.
5 vehicles total, so
Yes.
it would be 2 additional.
2 additional.
I didn't do math well in school. That's why I became.
2 additional. However, if we can just get the 2 sightseeing switched over, we would be happy with that. And, that way the buses, if they're ETV, if all 3 are ETV, they're moving. We don't stop.
What has been the, you mentioned that it's been difficult with the 2 vehicles being permitted as sightseeing vehicles versus what they were before. Can you give me an understanding of the economic impact to your business?
Well, it's huge. I mean, it's not as popular, for one.
We also, I was just going to say, we also just had to start over last year when we were given the 2 sightseeing. We were ET. So it's taken a year for us to kind of,
What would
get
you estimate?
customers.
Sorry to interrupt you, Miss.
That's
What
fine.
what would you estimate the delta in revenue has been for you?
I mean, off the top of my head, a couple $100,000.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Music City Party Fire Truck.
Good afternoon. I'm Wade Shoemaker. I'm the owner of the party fire engine that you might see downtown. We've been in operation since 2018. Last year we asked for 2 permits. I had COVID, so I wasn't able to be here. So I'm just asking for that 1 additional permit. There's other companies that's been in business a lot less time than we have that got quite a bit more than we did. We regularly have to turn people away because we don't have enough room with our current just 1 truck. We've got bookings all the way out to October now. I think we're unique. We're not just another school bus. We're the only fire engine in town. Traffic problem, I understand that's a huge issue. We sit in traffic also. I don't think we're the cause of the traffic problem. And our vehicle, I can run the speed limit on the interstate. And the only time we slow down and not run at the same speed as what the traffic is going over the rough potholes in the road, which, quite honestly are quite a few places. But try not to shake our passengers around. We go slow over the big potholes and the roads that aren't repaired. But other than that, we're running the same speed as the traffic. We're a smaller vehicle. We're not the size of a bus, so we don't take up as much room. If I had 2 vehicles, my goal would be to not run after 9 p.m. on Friday and Saturday nights. I don't want to be out there on Friday and Saturday nights after 9 p.m. But right now, with the limited, availability we have to run. But any questions? We haven't been in any trouble. We haven't had any issues with tickets or anything except for one we got recently. We got caught in the same traffic and couldn't unload passengers in the middle of the street, so we had to wait till we could get to a safe place to get them off. But we haven't been to court on that yet, so I don't know what the findings are going to be on that. But I'm just asking for the 1 additional permit that we didn't get last year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Honky Tonk Party Express.
Hello, my name is Grant Rosenblatt. I'm the owner of the Honky Tonk Party Express. I'm here today to petition for 20 ETV permits. As you recall, last year, we actually originally wanted 38 permits, which we voluntarily surrendered 18 of those to 20 permits, which then further got reduced by an 8, giving us 12 ETV permits for this year. That's a 68% reduction from this time last year to present. As far as our company is concerned, we've been a good actor. Since creating this industry back in 2016, we've received no citations, tickets. We've paid all of our fees on time. We've obeyed the rules and regulations that were handed to us over the years, no matter how quickly or how expensive that those rules were handed down and we were made to comply. Financially, why are we asking for more permits? 8 sounds like a lot. But if you look at what our insurance policy has done, we're in a high-risk industry. Our insurance, there's 2 companies that insure what we do, and we have the better one. That's for the people who obey the law and the rules. But even that insurance has gone up 24% year to year. That's gone up for 3 years in a row at a cost of over $375,000. The new regulations, losing the 4 to 6 and after 11 p.m., just with the stroke of a pen, that was a 38% reduction in gross earnings revenue that we lost the ability to make up for, even though keeping the infrastructure of employees, our facility, and all of our office employees. Also, the $2 million excess was given to us in the same bundle. Excess for $2 million in high-risk insurance, for those who don't know, is expensive. It came at a cost of $300,000 to almost $400,000, depending on how you can leverage some things on that. And that was handed to us, again, with the stroke of a pen. Let's just talk about demand. We are sold out every single weekend, and we're actually up 25% for the demand for the vehicles that we've had over last year. We are booked out in advance up to 13% higher. Our bus is actually the number one activity based upon an app called the Batch app out of the entire country. That's 137 activities that anyone around the world can book. That says a lot for Nashville and what we're doing. Investments. We've invested in a 10,000 square foot depot for safe loading and unloading for public safety. That was a big concern. We solved that as well, too. We've also made an investment in a lot downtown. We call it Campus 2. That's where our patrons are able to pull in with an armed security officer for their safety and helping patrol that area where they can safely go to the restroom and back. That is another cost that incurred voluntarily on us. And the thing that we were talking about last year, let's talk about speed. I actually installed digital speedometers after that last meeting, so my bus drivers know exactly to the mile how fast they are going and where they need to be going in terms of speed. And last, I'll just say, look, I have 73 employees that are greatly dedicated to what they do. All we want today, and we're asking for in our 8 permits, is the ability to grow the same as Nashville's had the ability to grow when we're talking with the hotels, the bars, the restaurants, and other service-oriented industries. And we are asking for that privilege, and that is why we are requesting 8 permits, ETV permits today. Thank you.
Thank you. Hell on Wheels. Gray Lion. Extreme Experience. Oh, excuse me. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name's George Hetzel, and I own Gray Lion Tours. That's Lion, not Line. Anyway, last year when we had the application and they had the meeting, I wasn't here. My sister was very ill in the hospital, and I chose to stay with her. Didn't know the meeting was as important as it was. Didn't know it was mandatory. We were denied originally any permits. My cousins were here who were working with me. They came up and pleaded to the board. We asked for originally 2 sightseeing buses and 5 party buses. 2 of those party buses have hard tops on them. We were given, they said, so I have empathy for the gentleman that was the military guy, because he wasn't here because of the military. But we were given 2 permits, one for sightseeing and one for party bus. In my opinion, as a businessman, that's not really a business, it's just a job. And so I think that we had all the buses purchased and we were ready to go, but that's what happened. We weren't allowed to appeal, and we have filed suit to appeal with what happened that day. But I'm here today to ask for what we asked for originally, which was 2 sightseeing buses and 5 party buses. 3 were the open top buses and 2 were the closed top buses. And we operated last year. We had no problems, no tickets or anything like that. When we came into the business, we wanted to make a statement. They didn't tell us that. So I invested hundreds of thousands of dollars into this business. And I'm a native Nashvilleian. We pick up and drop off at a warehouse that I own off of North 1st Street. So we have a 70,000 foot building over there. We would just like to have the opportunity to run our business originally as we started and tried to, but we didn't get a chance to speak last year. So I'd just like to have, if we could, have our 2 sightseeing buses. We have one of our sightseeing buses is an open top, just like Gray Line, and it's a double-decker open top bus, all seated. Our other bus is a open top bus, but it has a ceiling on it, and but that's what we'd like, and I appreciate any consideration we could get. My last question is, have any of y'all ridden in the party buses at all? Has anybody on the board ridden a party bus? If you would, raise your hand. I'd just like to know who that was. Okay. All right, great. I just thank you very much. We're happy to take y'all out anytime that y'all like to go. Thank you.
Thank you. Extreme Experience, LLC. Big Green Tractor.
Sorry, just got a message. My name is Ronnie Heatherly, Big Green Tractor Tours. We operate Fridays and Saturdays, come in at 6 o'clock, out at 11. Come in on Saturdays from 1 o'clock, out at 11. The only time that we run during the week, which is when we have corporate events, which we have lost because we only have one permit. We asked for 2 last year and we only got 1. We've turned down 6 corporate events this year because we didn't have enough room to accommodate and the return corporate events.
When you say you didn't have enough room, are you referring to the booking for the corporate event? What say
Correct.
If your tractor, what's the capacity of your vehicle?
25.
25. So there were more than 25 people in the business that needed to be on the tour, and you didn't have enough. So
I've had 2 this year that have ridden with us before, and I told them, I said, I'm sorry. I said, we just can't accommodate. And they were like, well, that's why we always come back, because it's the tractor and the wagon, the whole country music, with Music City, blah, blah, blah. And then they've referred us to other people, and we couldn't accommodate them. And we are enclosed because he told me that we had to be enclosed to be considered for a second permit. Him, Mr. Rogers. And we are enclosed. We are air conditioned.
Thank you.
Any additional questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Barefoot Entertainment, LLC, DBA Nashville Party Barge.
Good afternoon. My name is Joel Stampley. And back in June of 2022, my client applied for 8 permits. She received 4. Subsequently, after that, in November of 2022, she received a notice of violation. I understand that 2 of her 4 were revoked. One's permit was suspended for 60 days. Another one was suspended for 90 days, along with the prohibition of service of alcohol until April the 30th. I understand that my client fully complied with all those sanctions, and she is simply seeking just to recoup those 2 that were revoked back in November. She primarily operates on the outskirts of downtown. She loads and unloads on Davidson Street. And we're just simply, we acknowledge the mistake. We made the mistake. We rectified it. We wholly comply with the sanctions imposed, and we're just simply seeking to recoup the 2 revoked. So currently with 2, originally from 8, that's a 75% decrease. And we're just merely seeking to recoup the 2 that were revoked back in November.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you.
Quick question. Could you briefly just speak to the violations that were reported here for the 2 vehicles which were issued permits?
Sorry, I'm Susan Pistola. The loading violations I addressed last meeting, but I'll address again. They were just, drivers were doing what the customers dictated, and they loaded, unloaded in a non-loading place. And those have been paid. That you talking about? Yep. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Fields, based on the printout you gave all of us prior to the meeting, I believe that that I've covered all of the existing certificate holders who are seeking additional permits, as well as the new certificate applicants. Is that right?
Yes.
I don't think they saw any additional. Just to reiterate, this is not a public hearing. So we've heard from all the applicants. So at this time, we as a commission can decide if we're going to award any additional permits and to whom, if we decide we're going to award additional. I will say, this is obviously a very difficult decision. Last year, we awarded 89. We subcategorized them between sightseeing and entertainment. And there were 50 sightseeing permits and 39 entertainment style permits. 2 of those entertainment style permits were revoked from Nashville Party Barge due to violations, and that was the disciplinary action that we took as a commission, was to permanently remove those permits. So that lowered the number to 37 entertainment vehicles and 50 sightseeing for a total of 87. If we had not revoked the 2 from Nashville Party Barge, it would have left us with the 39 entertainment vehicles and the 50 sightseeing. We would be in the same position we are now, which is being unable to lower the number without a change in the Metro code, allowing us to lower the number. And also being advised that we would need to renew all of the existing permit holders subject to a determination that individually that company is capable and otherwise in compliance with our rules on an ongoing basis. So I think that if we want to award the same number we gave last year, that would not necessarily be inconsistent with our decision last month, or excuse me, 2 weeks ago, that the range of number of vehicles should be between 35 and 70 after the 1 year of being able to go into effect.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Can I speak? 2 weeks ago, when we did agree that in April or May of 2024, we're going to be down to between 35 and 70. That's total vehicles, sightseeing and entertainment.
Correct.
To approve more than what we're going to reduce to a year from now seems to be inconsistent and puts potentially further hardship on these people that we're considering today. I can't, in good conscience, while I know this is a hardship on some of these people in the audience, but I can't recommend approving any further permits at this time, and knowing that we're going to be taking away many more permits than are currently in the 87 that are existing.
I guess what I would add is that is a business decision for the individual business holder, really, as opposed to us making that decision. We have 87 permit holders right now, and they can read the room. They know that if Metro Council passes this amended ordinance, the number is going to be a lot lower next year, and everyone is going to be scrambling for those remaining existing new numbered permits. And I think it's perfectly appropriate for us to allow some of these new applicants to have a permit if we decide to increase the number, and have them be able to, just as the existing permit holders, make their best case for them to be one of the 35 to 70 permit holders next year.
These are really challenging decisions to make, absolutely. I wonder if, I'm easing in here, we might take up the issue of the conversion of two existing permits from one category to the other.
I think that's a fair thing to suggest. Certainly, the traffic study did not make a distinction between sightseeing and ETV. In fact, they didn't make a distinction really at all between slow-moving vehicles of any kind. So,
I guess from my perspective, one of my concerns would be a matter of fairness in that we did not allow other permit holders who we did renew for sightseeing permits to effectively, exchange to an ETV. And I would also say that based on my observation, there is a difference in the impact to traffic for sightseeing vehicles and ETVs. So from a matter of, sort of public inconvenience, which was sort of a term we described at the last meeting, I would see that would be detrimental to our already worsening traffic situation.
I think I said earlier that I think we should look at these if there's a different business model. And I assume there are other issues that can be taken up too in terms of, whether they were here the last time or not. So I understand what the commissioners are saying about no further applications, but the fact is that when we get to it next year, we're going to be cutting down whether it's 87, 89, or 90. I mean, it's going to be pretty messy, but that's next year. I agree with the chairman that we need to look at it this year, today, knowing what we're going to probably be doing next year. I mean, everybody here can go to council next week or the week after, whenever it's on second reading. There's probably going to be a crowd. So are we going to go through these one by one and make decisions? Are we going to wait for motions?
it would seem to be that going through them one by one would allow us the flexibility of making it a customized decision. But if you want to make a motion to consider them, otherwise, we certainly can consider it.
Yeah, I'll make a motion just to get it started. Most of these I'm not going to vote for, so it's not going to be a short motion. I'm going to ask for approval of specific request and a number. Should we do those one by one, or should I make a motion for all of them? And there aren't many.
Just propose one.
Yeah. Cover the exception.
Okay, yeah, because they are. Okay, I will move that Nashville Party Truck receive a permit for one entertainment vehicle, that Party and Ride receive a permit for one entertainment vehicle, and Nomadic Genius receive a permit for one entertainment vehicle.
I'll second the motion for discussion.
Mr. Hayes?
Thank you. You know, you guys have kind of heard me loud and clear tonight, or this afternoon, but look, our rules, 010C, specifically state in making the finding of an award for a certificate of public convenience and necessity, the MTLC shall at a minimum take into consideration, and it's crystal clear, traffic flow and the probable effect of increased service on local traffic conditions. Our traffic study has said that more than 40 is problematic. Statistically shown, more than 40 is problematic. The 35 to 70 was a range that was a compromise. Approving any additional ETVs today is inconsistent with our rules and regulations. I cannot support your movement.
I'm curious as to how you are differentiating these from the other groups.
The dinner table under glass, whatever it's called, the Nomadic Genius tasty tour, it just seemed to be different. That's when I was asking earlier about another category. I don't want another category, don't get me wrong. But there are no woo-woo girls, I don't think, inside of glass.
Their
And they're not
website says lots of woo girls. And it shows people drinking and they can't make a right-hand turn going like the speed of traffic.
This one?
Yeah, Nomadic Genius. Hop on their website, look at the video.
Yeah.
And it shows people loading and unloading on Broadway in their pictures.
And the Nashville party truck, quite frankly, I just feel sorry for the guy, okay? Just to be...
Agreed. And I can't subject 600,000 Nashvillians to increased
I understand,
traffic.
Commissioner, and when we get to this next year, if I'm still here and you're still here, I'll probably be with you next year, okay? I understand where you're coming from, and I'm not discounting it at all. And you'll notice I've only got 3 out of however many applications we've got here. And the other one, the party and ride, I think we had, one of the other commissioners talked about diversity. I think that should be taken into account in anything, quite frankly, that Metro government does. So that's my reasoning for those 3.
You know, I have a ton of sympathy for the business owners in the room who have invested time, money, and energy into developing their businesses and then putting themselves out there to deliver a service to the city. I also acutely feel on a day-to-day basis. My office is at 401 Commerce Street. I was behind a Old Town trolley today when I was getting dropped off from my Uber from my car dealership because my car's in the shop, and that was a very annoying experience, but I made it inside the building alive and well. I hear everybody here, and I think the role of this commission really is to balance the needs of our society and of our city community against the free market principles that make up our society. I hear you, Commissioner Hayes, in terms of the NDOT study, driving downtown every day, having to cross Broadway to get to work most days. I'm sitting in that traffic, and I understand, and I do agree that the overall number of permits is going to have to be reduced. I do think, however, when we look at what our task is here today in applying our rules and regulations, I do think a limited number of additional permits at this present time is unlikely to dramatically exacerbate the ongoing traffic issues, because I do agree to a limited extent with some of the testimony that we've heard today that the traffic issues aren't solely caused by ETVs and aren't solely caused by large vehicles on the road. There are many other issues, whether it be the design of how our roads intersect, the way thoroughfares, one-way streets, width of streets, etc. I get it. All that is to say, I think that what we have to do here, and why I support Commissioner Rogers' motion, is really balance those issues in understanding that people have put time, sweat, and money into taking a risk to provide a service that people clearly, there is a demand for this. It is increasing. And I think as we balance what our city wants to be and how that needs to happen, I really put it to Metro Council and the elected leaders of our city to really listen to the constituents, listen to all the parties involved, and really come up with that. But in terms of how I feel as a commissioner and how I'm going to vote on this present motion, I'm in favor of it and awarding the 3 additional permits that have been motioned at this present time.
In looking at the task that we have, which is, looking at the two-prong approach, we need to look at whether or not, there is a matter, whether or not adding additional permits is, required by public convenience and necessity. I think that, given the compelling evidence which led to our finding at the last meeting, and, I'll just say as a downtown resident, there are over 15,000 of us and it's growing, astronomically. The traffic crisis is real. There are a number of different components which contribute to that, but I also cannot in good conscience approve any additional permits, and that's how I intend to vote on this resolution.
Being a Nashville business owner and having somewhat of a footprint in the transportation industry, in that I operate 15 to 19 26-foot box trucks around Nashville at any one given time. I tend to agree that we do have a traffic problem. I tend to also agree that that traffic problem is not solely on the transportainment industry or the sightseeing industry. It has a lot to do with our growth, the speed of our growth, the design of our city, and to place all that on the nail head of transportainment, I think would be unfair. The study does show an increase from 40 to 70, but that increase is sharply at 70 and very slightly at 40, if we remember the chart correctly. And that there has been some lost opportunity, in all due fairness to some of the applicants, some of it being for diversity and some of it being just due to circumstance. But I also tend to agree that we all as businessmen, myself included, can read the room to know that if we tend to make that investment into keeping vehicles or adding vehicles on the road, there is in all likelihood that you made an investment that you hope your gains in the next year would satisfy that investment. So having said that, I do tend to back Mr. Rogers' motion as well.
So one of the confusing things about the chart that we didn't discuss last week, but was in the narrative below, the chart showed a graph that showed a little bit of an increase of like 2 seconds. But the narrative below and the conclusion said you take that 2 seconds and multiply it by the number of vehicles in the network. So it wasn't a small increase, it was a dramatic increase. Hundreds of hours of delay. That's why the conclusion was for 40 vehicles, not 70. I made a recommendation of 35 because I know we're going to grow. We have millions of square feet of office opening in the next year in the yards. We have thousands of people moving into the downtown core. And so as I think about the future and the message that we're sending and people investing in the business, it's very difficult for me to see a time when it's going to get better. If we continue to allow really slow moving vehicles on one lane streets through the network, through the heart of our downtown core. So I know the chart just showed this, but the sentences below were the important things to read in the conclusion.
I'd like to move the previous question.
If I could just add something.
Sure.
I've listened to all the applicants, and Party and Ride in particular was one of the only ones that came forward and said, look, we are not operating in the areas that are saturated by the other companies. We want a permit. We want a chance to operate. They know full well that the number of existing permit holders is going to go down next year if the ordinance is amended by Metro Council, but they still want a permit. They still want to operate as a business just like the other existing companies. I was very compelled by the argument made by Mr. Mayberry. It's part of his application. I think we should consider awarding him a permit.
I'm renew my motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Oh, wait, I thought that was on the previous.
Yeah, it is.
I'm confused.
It's a motion to call
I
the
didn't say
question.
anything because I was like,
I'll clarify. The motion to call the question passes. So now we're going to be voting on Mr. Rogers' motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any nays?
Nay.
Nay.
So it's 4-3. Motion passes. So we have one permit being awarded to Nashville Party Truck, one permit being awarded to Party and Ride, and one permit being awarded to Nomadic Genius. And these are in the ETV category, or entertainment category, not sightseeing.
Can I make a comment just real quick? I want to make a comment to some of the business owners who were here that I have dealt with since I've been on this commission, and I want to applaud you for your longevity. And there is something to be said in being the first. I have been a business owner in Nashville for over 25 years. I have been in the logistics business for just about 20 and have watched numerous other logistics companies come into contracts, into areas that I have established and even trained some of those contractors to come into. And I sympathize when you say we were here first, we set the ground rules, we put in the money and we put in the time. But in the same sense, that is the makeup of our country, is competition. It is the ability to come in behind in an established business and have a chance to establish your business as well. I say that to say that I started with Sears, one of the largest industries in the business, who are no longer here. And some of their demise had to do with just not diversifying, but some of it just had to do with new competition coming in, doing it just a little bit better, and having, just as much invested. I say that to say I applaud you guys, and I appreciate you putting helping us put some of those guidelines in. And it is, if it's truly your intent to make this industry better, that should be good enough. If that's your intent, like most of you state, you put in the time, you helped us develop the guidelines because you want this industry to be better. You want it to be safer, not just for you, but for Nashville. That should be a catalyst for you to continue and to realize that we can't create small monopolies within this as well. Just my opinion, not speaking for the board.
Ask a question of staff.
Yes.
One, I want to nominate Commissioner Carr for mayor. Two, when will your bill be on second reading? What date? So on first reading Tuesday.
First reading Tuesday, which I believe is the 16th. So it would be the first meeting in June, which I think, is it June 2nd? No. That's the June 6th. Sorry, June 6th.
June 6th. Can they deal with things other than the budget in June? Did I hear?
That is an excellent question. I think they can, but I'm not 100% sure. So.
You know what I'm asking?
Yeah.
But it'd be June 6th if they can take up normal
Yes,
legislation.
of course, it could be deferred.
Well, yeah, that's true.
I have a question for Mr. Fields. So I am concerned in what we have seen that there may be other passenger or OPVH vehicles who are receiving citations for operating as an ETV. Would those be brought before us for review under the normal course?
Under normal course, we would take them to court and we would let the courts deal with them. The commission could, unless legal can correct me, and I think I'm correct in this, the commission always has the authority to bring any violation, whether it has been taken to court or not. If the commission says we want to see all violations, or we just want to see direct violation of 6.77, we don't want to see loading, but we do want to see after hours, we do want to see, or if you want to see loading, it's just a matter of, if you instruct the staff, we will bring whatever, and happy to do so. It'd be entirely up to the commission, the actions you'd like us to take.
Well, to follow up on Mr. Sanders-Steven's question, if there's an OPVH operating that we believe is an ETV and they're cited, couldn't they be brought before this commission for disciplinary actions regarding their OPVH permit?
So yes, if they have a granted other passenger vehicle for hire permit, and instead of operating within the scope of that permit, they're effectively operating as a unpermitted entertainment vehicle, I think there is an argument that they would be within your disciplinary authority. If they don't have either kind of permit, if they're just operating completely unpermitted and this commission has not granted them anything whatsoever, then they would be beyond this commission's authority and that would have to go to court.
Great, thank you. I don't need to take that matter up here, but I just wanted it on the record that may be something that we should consider at a future meeting.
Just to get us back on track here, I do believe we have the amended request from Nashville Ultimate Party Bus to reclassify their existing permits, and then I think we do need to make a decision regarding the other applicants as to whether there will be any additional permits.
And as legal instructed earlier, you may take them as a group, you may take them individually, you may take them as a classification of new versus existing.
Mr. Chairman, if I can kick it off. I guess this is a question to NDOT and then to the other commissioners with a little bit more experience. we subcategorize the ETVs and sightseeing permits here. But the NDOT study, to my recollection, and as Mr. Hayes said earlier, really didn't differentiate between the two in terms of its impact on traffic. Can you provide us with any further information about how a reclassification from sightseeing to ETV would impact that traffic flow? Is there any information on that? Or are there any other considerations that we should consider with respect to that? And that's the NDOT. And then to my fellow commissioners, I'm interested to hear your opinions as to that reclassification, the difference and its impact, and kind of what we think about that.
Yes, Commissioner. So with any study, you know, we have to make assumptions based on that. We can't model every single vehicle in the system. So we have to look at it in terms of vehicle dynamics and geometry. So those are the two big factors that we're trying to address when we look at the simulation. So we know startup and lost time. That's the factor of actually getting, you know, when you come to a complete stop and you start again with larger, heavier vehicles, that takes longer than passenger vehicles. So that's baked into the analysis as well. So with sightseeing in our trolley, we see the same dynamics, but we have to make some assumptions, and we can't model every vehicle. That's the bottom line answer.
Gotcha. As a follow-up to that question, to that point, and this is my assumption, my experience driving down the road, it seems to me when I've seen party buses with woo girls going around, it's kind of a steady kind of thing until you hit a stoplight, and then it's a startup again, right? With sightseeing, sometimes it slows down a little bit to take more pictures, perhaps, or just kind of stop at things. Isn't Dot's experience?
That's a good observation. We didn't model the number of stops. You know, we're looking at it purely as a vehicle dynamic issue when you get to the intersections and stopping, where you have to stop. You know, in those. So that's what the model reflects currently. If we were to look at it in terms of modeling all the number of stops that they were taking, that would be more of a detailed model and more of a challenge to do so. But we modeled it based on the vehicle dynamics, like I said, and geometries at the different. It's a capacity issue. You know, we have limited space on the roadway. So when you have larger vehicles that have more larger vehicles that have slower stop and start times, then that's how we factor it into the analysis.
Maybe an ancillary point to your question, Commissioner. You know, something that I've sort of seen and even in talking with Grant, you know, when you were sitting in my office, you said we can't go super fast because people are dancing and standing up. People seated, you can go a little faster, right? It's a little safer when you're making a turn or you're going down a hill to maybe go 18, 20 miles an hour versus their instruction at the time for their drivers to go 13 miles an hour due to public safety.
Yeah, we did make a distinction between the two. I mean, on paper, an entertainment vehicle, the passengers can be standing, alcohol can be served. On a sightseeing vehicle, they have to be seated. There's no alcohol. And as Mr. Hayes' point, there's an anticipation that the sightseeing vehicle is traveling slightly faster.
Got it. Okay.
There were other considerations, you know, noise, which, you know, that's subject to litigation right now, but there were other considerations as well. You know, the sightseeing vehicles can be open air. The entertainment vehicles were supposed to be enclosed. So,
Thinking about the impact to the network as well, and I don't know how much you guys have modeled this, but when you look at some of the sightseeing routes, some of the stops are outside of the downtown network, right? And so the traffic study really looked at specifically the impact of the number of vehicles entering and exiting the network, both from passenger vehicles, and ETVs. And if you have a sightseeing bus, at least it may go out to Opryland, or it may go out to some attraction that's outside of the downtown core where my comment last week, if you don't have somebody to woo at, right? Like, it's not fun to drive around a parking lot. You want to engage with the people. Woo. You missed that.
I missed that. Yeah. Bars, sir. It was good. It was good.
I'd like to go ahead and make a motion that we deny the ETV and sightseeing applications for all new certificate applicants who have not already been granted permits, and existing certificate holders who have requested additional sightseeing and ETV permits.
Any additional discussion?
Clarify for me, I didn't quite get the whole gist. So you want to, just as a whole, deny any new applications or permits for any existing permit holders to increase their fleet? Is that what?
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
It was differentiating between the new certificate applicants who have not already been granted a permit, and then we had separated them also into the existing certificate holders who had requesting additional permits.
I want to make sure you understood what he just said, because I interpreted your original motion as denying all additional permits for any remaining applicants we've not addressed. So that's the new permits as well as the existing permit applicants.
Yes.
I think, and maybe this is a question for legal, but need to give a purpose for the denial? Or we've had a lot of discussions today about traffic and traffic flow and the number of ETV already in operation. I didn't hear from any operator that the cap of 70 was too low. I heard my business gets really busy on Friday and Saturday, and there's demand. But I didn't hear an analysis that said if we went from 67 or 87 to 150, that a traffic engineer or someone else would say that wouldn't have an impact on traffic flow. But I did hear a lot of people say, I could sell a lot more seats on certain days of the week. But I didn't hear that from everybody, right? So maybe one of these people is really full and other people have space on their buses. Sorry. That was my question. Does the ordinance need to be any more specific?
I can amend
I kind of think the ordinance itself doesn't, the motion itself doesn't. The discussion, if the discussion contains rationale in support of votes in favor of the motion, then that will help if anyone chooses to appeal this commission's decision.
Yeah, I'm happy to amend it to say that, no further ETV or sightseeing vehicles are required, for public convenience or necessity.
Based on the conversation and discussion in open meeting that you've had.
Yes.
I need the second again. Is that an amendment?
Yes.
Okay, second.
All right, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Motion passes.
Move to adjourn.
Is there
Second?
I'm going to ask for some for acquiescence. I'm going to require all the companies to have all their fees paid by May the 23rd. in 2 weeks. It's Tuesday, the 23rd. And I don't know that it requires you to necessarily approve it, but that's if that's the will of the commission, that's what we'll do. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so we have a motion to adjourn by Mr. Rogers and a second.
Second.
All those in favor? Motion passes. Thank you.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.